I am Alex, aka Dynasty Guru NFL, and you're watching the Dynasty Hotseat.
Yes. Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Dynasty Hotseat. It's the only Dynasty show out there that is a certified Inferno. And today we're back. Alex, me and you were just saying last year we did quote unquote way too early mock draft in January. We're back even earlier this year in November, talking some 2025 rookies. Guys, you watched the show before, you'll know Alex. He's been on, 3, 4, 5. You've been on a hell of a lot of times. You can find him over on X at DynastyGuruNFL. You do work for Fantasy Six Pack. You're busy running local football teams as well, Alex. He's a man with many talents. Great to see you back in the show, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, great. Really good. Glad to be back again. I think this is now number 5.
I think so.
Yeah. And it's always this feels like my home podcast almost, since I don't have my own.
yeah, I think so. And of course, you're very special to the Dynasty Hot Seat because you, of course, were the first ever guest on the Dynasty Hot Seat all those years ago. So a very, very warm welcome return. And of course, a warm welcome return to everyone who's watched the show before. If you've not already, hit that subscribe button. You're a returning viewer. Hey, what the hell are you doing? And if you're new viewer, hey, come and join us. It's very nice here. It's nice and warm. Jump right in. And Alex, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to jump right into this 2025 class and chat about these rookies. So there's been a bit of debate. There's no consensus 1-1 at the minute on the show through a lot of people that I've had on at the minute. Who is your 1-1 though, Alex? It is Superflex. And tell me why they're your 1-1.
Nah, see, my picks might be a little rogue here, but I'm hoping they kind of
love it,
match up the same way, like in the same way that they did last year, where I don't know if you remember, I snuck Brian Thomas into the top 10.
You did.
Hey, presto, there we go.
It worked out.
And I also said Keon Coleman would be a bust, and
I agreed. And look at us now. Yeah.
Yes, look at us now. And so my number 1 should be completely undisputed Ashton Jeanty, even in a Superflex, because he's going potentially straight to Dallas, where he's just going to be loaded with production. Yeah. So, this season it's like 23 touchdowns, 1,700 plus rushing yards. Last season was around the same, even dipped more into the catching game as well last year.
Yeah.
I think he's going to slot straight into a starting role, whereas a lot of the other central draftees this year, there could be some teething pain in all of the positions that they're going.
Yeah, he's a freak, right? He's on track. Well, I don't know if he's quite on track anymore. He's certainly close to breaking with Barry Sanders' college football rushing record, which was assumed would never ever be broken, especially modern day. And he's at least got pretty close. It's hard to try and find a comparison for him, like whenever you're trying to comp, because he looks as if he's playing against 14-year-olds, the way that he's just batting people. I don't know. Sometimes I see a bit of Marshall Lynch in him. It's hard. He's that good though that I think he might be a guy that people compare to him later on. I think he's that kind of special player, right?
Yeah, he's like a grown man playing with kids. He's it's a league above others, and he won me my first ever college fantasy football league last season. So he's I had him and Blake Watson basically just 2 or 3 touchdowns each every week. So that kind of won me it. So I have a soft spot for Ashton Jeanty in my heart. So I think he's definitely going to be the one that kind of just runs away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to be the guy. I think at 1-1 when it's all said and done, he'll be the consensus guy. And Blake Watson's not your one. Blake Watson's not your 1-2, right? That's not you're not going for nostalgic, right?
No, I have stashed him on a lot of my taxi squads, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
'Cause
Who's? Oh, sorry, Alex. Go on.
I was going to say he unbelievably went undrafted last year, which was completely to me.
Yeah, I didn't even know that he was drafted. I thought he was still playing college football. Like, that's how much I know by Blake Watson. So hopefully he's got a resurgence coming up. But at 1-2, it is Superflex. Is this where you start to dip into the quarterback pool? Because there's a lot of questions about this quarterback class.
Yeah, I think the quarterback class is good to better than mediocre, but good plus, I'd say. But then there is a bit of a drop, and in this class, I would say that there are a lot of running backs and a handful of very good receivers. So that's probably why they're also being undersold a little bit. But I think my second pick would be Jalen Milroe. I think he Alabama. I picture him going to the Giants and them taking him with their. I think they're probably getting a third, fourth overall pick in the draft.
Yep.
So I can see the Giants going for him to replace Daniel Jones. He's more like for like, even though the person who I have number 3, Shedeur Sanders, he's the kind of the sexy pick, if you will. But I think Milroe is much more the kind of, he fits the scheme that they have going in New York. So I think they'll keep that. So yeah, I mean, Milroe, he just super talented, comfortable in the pocket, quick on his feet. He's I think he has 16 rushing touchdowns. And yeah, he's the kind of, he's built like the quarterback that they wanted Daniel Jones to be, I think. Yeah. That's how I describe him.
You've kind of read my mind here a little bit, Alex, because I've not hit send on this tweet yet, but every week, if you follow me over on Twitter, you'll know I do like a big list of prospects who've impressed me throughout the year, and each week I'll do a little tagline. And I was going to say about Jalen Milroe, I've been so surprised watching mock drafts. You almost never see him in the first round. You sometimes don't even see him taken in the second round of these Dynasty mock drafts. And while he's a bit of an unpolished diamond for sure, for me, I think Jalen Milroe has the highest fantasy upside of any quarterback in this class. And it's not even particularly close either. Just the way that he can rush the ball. He's sort of this weird hybrid of like strength and speed. He's not quite a Jaden Daniels where you're worried about his sturdiness, and he's not quite an Anthony Richardson either where he's just a tank, but he's somewhere in that sweet spot in the middle. His rushing upside is unbelievable. He's an incredible athlete.
Yeah.
His decision-making sometimes can be suspect, but you'd hope that can get cleaned up, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I'd say that if he did land in New York is that he'd struggle a lot with protection. Even though they keep investing quite a lot in the offensive line, it's still a bit shaky. I'm just assuming that he goes there and nowhere else. But, there's probably a couple of teams, so I'm sure we'll get to it as well. There's a couple of teams that could do with a new quarterback and will probably have a high first-round pick. So, I mean, depending on where he lands, but I think he'd be a solid producer. Maybe in his rookie year, you'd expect him to be around QB 20 to 24-ish. But with, again, like you said, upside. Because I think the running game will win him games. If you look at Bo Nix, look at how Bo Nix has done it this season.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, exactly. Just that scrambling around. And of course, Jaden Daniels the higher end of that as well. Yeah. Just getting those points for fantasy is crazy. I don't think Milroe is the best NFL quarterback here. I don't think he'll be the first one drafted, but we're not playing, NFL here. We're playing fantasy. We want points, and Milroe can get you those points for sure. And you'd mentioned possibly the best NFL quote unquote quarterback might be Shedeur Sanders, who is your third overall pick. Talk to me about Shedeur Sanders and what do you expect out of him?
I kind of expect him to be similar to like a Jaden Daniels in terms of impact on a team that he joins. Again, it depends on where he lands. But I think for him, he could end up with a bad landing spot. That's the thing I find with. there's not many systems that would like Carolina.
That's never good, is it? Like that's
Right.
you're kind of worried anyone goes to Carolina at the minute, right?
Exactly. It could end up being that he ends up in Carolina. Or Tennessee. Tennessee system doesn't really work for Sanders. I think you need to have a kind of. I mean, I don't know if I'm overthinking it a little bit, but I wouldn't say I have more reservations on Sanders than I do on Milroe, because I don't. I have probably less. But I think that he will end up because a bad team will gamble on him. By bringing him in. And so I think it'll end up him being drafted for a bad team. So I think long term, very good. But in terms of like maybe next season after, he probably won't have as much value. We'll need some time for whoever he goes to build around.
I can see him just looking at the draft order right now. Currently, if he went somewhere like 5th overall, currently at the minute, he'd end up going to the Raiders. I feel like that might be that might be the best sort of fit from whenever you look around. You've got like Cleveland and Tennessee there as well. You're right. That doesn't quite fit. But if he goes to the Raiders, I think there could be something there. I don't really know why though. It's kind of a gut instinct. But yeah. He's currently going at 1-3 in your mock draft of these rookies. So let's go on to 1-4. Are you sticking at the quarterback well, Alex, or are you moving elsewhere?
I am moving elsewhere. I'm going receiver. Do you want to guess the receiver I'm going here?
Well, it's between 1 and 2. I think. Give me Tet MacMillan as your wide receiver one.
MacMillan.
Yes.
T Mac. Yeah, it has to be. He has the Mike Evans about him. That's the way. That who I'd call his like an NFL comparison at the minute. He's a big time player, just like smooth, strong, physical, isn't phased. He's played against some good teams. He's shown himself to be capable against good cornerbacks. Can play across the board, different formations. So he's probably my receiver number 1.
Yeah, I like the way you said quarterbacks plural there, because he's double teamed almost every single time as well. Like just that Arizona offense not got much going for it, but Tet MacMillan for sure. And you'll see sometimes they do a good job of boxing him up, and then you'll see he plays some teams and they don't quite get the coverage right, and he goes for 200 yards a game. And you're just like, you have to be so careful with this guy because he will beat you literally on his own. I can't wait to see what he does in the NFL. And we've seen with Noah Fafita, bless him, not great. He's showing that he's almost quarterback proof as well, and that's needed in the NFL right now because a lot of these teams, their quarterbacks just suck right now, right, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, 3 years ago, you would have said Trevor Lawrence is a sure thing, coming out of Clemson, and now it's like, can't win a game. Daniel Jones has always had question marks about him, but not scoring a touchdown at home for however long it was, 2 years. Yeah. And then backing it up with another bad game last week. So I think college level is a good indicator on where they can go, and it's kind of a bit up to them, a bit of how much effort they put in, because the league is a big jump.
Yeah, definitely a big step up. We've seen that with guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. is doing well, but we've not seen him, come out and completely dominate like he was in college. I expect he will get there. I imagine we'll see the same sort of slow roll with Tet MacMillan as well, where he goes. He's my wide receiver 1 as well, Alex. I've got a bit of a tier break as well. I don't think it's particularly close between Tet MacMillan and wide receiver 2. And at 1-5, are you going back to wide receiver 2, or are you going to another position?
I'm going back to quarterback.
Ooh.
Yes. I think this is the complete opposite of Shedeur Sanders. I think this quarterback will probably be going to one of the teams that you mentioned. And I think maybe the Browns or the Raiders. And I put Quinn Ewers there. which is
Quinn Ewers,
probably a
talk to
bit
me.
higher than he's
Yeah.
put on other places. But I think if the way the draft unfolded now, he could be going the Browns at number 4. Is that right?
Quinn Ewers to the Browns sounds about right, doesn't it? Like, yeah, that does sound about right. I think actually, whenever you say that out loud, I'm like, yeah, that fits.
He has a bit of flair to him, which I think the crowd will like. But he has a lot he needs to work on. I think he's not the finished product. Like he's very good in the pocket, good kind of passing range, but he has this kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe it's just not so pretty to look at, but he has this weird like throwing. Like he jumps when he throws, and it's he would just need to work on those things and like tighten up basically. But he could be good. I really like him.
I think he's been like held back a bit in the public eye because obviously Arch Manning is his teammate there. Mm-hmm. If I'm a Texas fan, I want to see Arch Manning. I'm not going to lie, just because it's more exciting. You want him to play as long as possible. Quinn Ewers is the guy there, and I think people are going to compare him directly to Arch and to other Texas quarterbacks over the last couple of years. But I think you have to kind of look at Ewers in a vacuum, and when you do, you'll see he is still a pretty solid prospect, right?
And there's a theme that you'll see coming here as well, where I think that he doesn't really need to showcase himself as much this season. He still has 19 passing touchdowns and something like 1,800 passing yards. But last season, you're talking like 3,500 passing yards, 20 plus touchdowns. So he's got a reel that he can show to teams, and as long as he stays healthy, kind of at the peak of his physical fitness, sharpness, then I think he'll be okay landing somewhere, potentially in the top 10 of the draft overall.
That's the big thing for him, isn't it? Because obviously he missed time at the end of last season where he's put out, and then obviously this year he's missed 3 or 4 games where Arch Manning stepped in. So hopefully he is able to stay sturdy with the NFL schedule as well. So he's gone at 1-5, Alex, almost halfway through the first round. Then coming up at 1-6, who you got?
Okay, this is bold. Who's your wide receiver 2?
Well, it should be Luther Burden, but I've not been too impressed with Luther Burden. I think it's pretty close between him and Trey Harris as well out of Ole Miss, who I really like. I know there's a guy that you really like, and I don't know if you're going to say his name right here because I know that you really like him, and he's not been mentioned yet in the show. You're not going to say Kevin Concepcion, Alex, are you?
No, he's too early. He's too early.
I know you really like that guy, right?
he's probably my overall favorite receiver.
Yeah.
Even though last season he was amazing. This year he's been a bit of hit and miss because they've had change in QB, 3 changes in QB. So I actually have Luther Burden as my wide receiver 2 and number 6 overall. But then I would compare him to like maybe a Josh Downs in terms of style of play. But then, thinking back to some of the dynasty drafts that we've done, Downs was kind of the top of the second round, maybe mid-second round pick. Maybe it is a little high for Luther Burden, but I don't think
so. I think he's gone around here in other drafts.
And if he lands somewhere like the Raiders, where they don't really have an out-and-out receiver, they need kind of a big player. It could be good for him. He's quite physical again, clever, sharp. He's got all the right attributes, I think, and he hasn't produced as much this season as he had last season. I think it's
Mizzou having a funny year. Brady Cook isn't really playing all that well. I think he's injured as well at the minute. Burden's flat out not really impressed me this season at all. Actually, I'll just quite and say it, but he did enough last year kind of like you're saying about Quinn Ewers, where he showed it that he can do it. He's this big yak kind of guy. If he gets the room, like, love to see him like run out there, but it's difficult. Like, we've had this before with players, like not quite to the same level, but if you remember a few years ago, Keyshawn Butte coming out was a kind of similar prospect, and he had a terrible last year. And where is he now? Right? It's kind of tricky.
He's the wide receiver one in New England.
Yeah, along with 10 other people.
No, I think Butte was my avoid of that class at receiver.
Yeah,
he was. I think I posted like an early tweet in around February, March that year. I said, "Stay away."
Yes,
and he went. I think it was 6th round in the end. Yeah,
I think so. I don't think Burden will slide that far. That seems crazy to me. But yeah, it is difficult whenever a player does not impress in their final season in college, and just to see what would happen. And we've seen this happen before. Keyshawn Butte was being, when I did these way too early mock drafts, he was going in the first round for a lot of people, and then it just slid. I don't see that happening with Burden, but
yeah,
it might.
Yeah, it might. I think he's Butte with if I compare him directly with Butte, when I was looking at tape, I was just like, that's just blown coverage. Like, he hasn't really done anything.
Yeah,
and he always had one move. It was like one move. So yeah.
Whereas Burden seems the opposite. This year, it is like he is the go-to guy, and he is being wrapped up everywhere. So it is very different. But yeah, it's just slight worries about Burden. But I think as of right now, at 1-6, can't be too mad about it. And he is still my wide receiver 2 overall as well. But like I said, I've got a tier break between him and Tet MacMillan. So Burden's going at 1-6. Who's at 1-7 for you, Alex?
RB2 going ahead. Caleb Johnson, Iowa.
Nice. I thought he was going to be I thought he was going to be one of my sleeper guys, Alex, and everyone just loves him. I'm like, God damn it! Like, I'm not going to get him in the 3rd round at all.
Yeah, he really is easy to watch. He's the kind of guy where he'll never be anyone's like favorite. He'll be like a top pick in draft, but he'll never be like a 101, 102, 103.
Yeah.
There won't be a Christian McCaffrey, of course, but like he will get the job done. He's sneakily versatile. There's depending on the style of running. Like, I'm a Michigan fan, so I don't want to compare with Brian Robinson because I didn't actually like him too much. But like, there's sort of a bit of Brian Robinson where he's kind of at the 5-yard line and it just bulldozes through. There's other plays where he looks a lot like Jamal Williams. There's some plays where you see him and you're like, oh wow, that's more like Jonathan Taylor. So like, he's very good. I do like it a lot.
Yeah, he's one of those do it all guys. Really good north south runner, I think, as well. And just I'm slightly gutted that other people have seen he's really good. I like to gut line because I thought, oh, this might go under the radar. Like, he hasn't been big on the scene, but yeah, here we are, him going at 1-7, and other people taking him in the 1st round as well. I'm not going to be able to get as many shares as him as I want, sadly. So he's in at 1-7. Who's after at 1-8? We staying in the running back well, or where are we going?
We are actually. I've gone Quinjon Judkins. Bit of a slow season, but he's another guy. He moved to Ohio State last season.
Yeah,
so that's
strangely.
That's impacted his production quite a bit.
I think that's got to be just because the NAL money, right? That's got to be the main reason. It has to be.
Right. And I think that's the same reason why we'll come to him later. His running back counterpart did the same last year. In hindsight, I think that's quite a bad decision because there were no running backs in the last class, last draft class, and there are a lot of teams that need running backs this season. So shot himself in the foot a little bit there.
I agree, because this time last year he was going, and Trevion was going around this kind of area last year when people assumed he was going to come out, and now he's slipping to the second round sometimes even, right? But and I'm agreed with you. I think Judkins is the better prospect. Why do you think he's a step ahead of Trevion Henderson?
Essentially, last season, Judkins playing for a arguably worse team than Ohio State carried that team, whereas Henderson had good production, but it wasn't like wow. Smooth runner, physical, very strong, clever, but he doesn't really look like he's left third gear. He's kind of coasting.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a, I say it's more of a risk to kind of wait for him to explode and be like, is this it? Oh, do we have to wait more? I think it'll be one of those players, kind of like a Dobbins.
Yeah, or it could take some time. Hopefully, not too many injuries like Dobbins. Could take some time. But Judkins is locked in the first round for you at 1-8. Who's going after Quinshon Judkins at 1-9?
1-9. I'm going back to quarterback, and on the basis of that, we saw one journeyman QB light up the first half of the season, Bo Nix. So I'm picking his substitute, Dylan Gabriel, nice. Oregon. He's had a good season so far, and really last season, he's moved around quite a bit, and he's always kind of delivered in terms of stats. He reminds me a little bit of JJ McCarthy, but better on his feet. Like very good.
He's way more nimble than well. JJ wasn't really given. You'll know as a Michigan fan, he wasn't really given a chance to be as nimble as Dylan Gabriel is. But yeah, you're right. Gabriel's got a bit of something on the ground, right? So yeah, is there other ways he reminds you of JJ McCarthy as well?
I mean, like I think, or Bo Nix as well. Like I think that's the kind of quarterback that they like in Oregon. It's quite evident. So I think that's why he's fit into the system quite well. He's nearly 3,000 passing yards, over 20 touchdown passing, and I think it's like 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns. So pretty good going.
Yeah, I think he's been he's the one guy for me that I've got as maybe the most underappreciated, undervalued prospect so far. I've done 3-4 of these already, Alex. He's not even come up in the second round yet, which I find quite strange, just because he seems to have all of the weapons. He has pretty nimble on his feet, can run a system really smoothly. His deep ball is unbelievable. I think he throws an unbelievable deep ball. Really nice spiral as well, which just helps to look at, obviously, too. So the only concern I have is he looks a little small, but I'm also not sure if the Oregon offensive line is just massive and just makes him look small. I'm not really sure, but that's one thing for me is like, does he have a touch of the Bryce Young's about him where he's just maybe too small? That's my main concern with him. Is that something you share as well?
Yeah. One thing I think has helped Gabriel is that he's moved around a bit. I think he'll pick up an NFL playbook a lot quicker than some of the others because he's like, okay, I've had an experience with 2 or 3 big systems. So, I mean, Oregon in itself is a big time school. So I think it was Oklahoma.
It was Oklahoma before that. Yeah.
So, it's two schools who run good college football teams, good programs. So I think he'll land on his feet somewhere. He probably won't be a first round draft pick. He might not even be a second round draft pick. But I think he could be a sneaky play, even at the end of the second round. If people aren't kind of thinking about him, take him when no one's looking.
could end up winning the Heisman Trophy as well. He's one of the favorites to win that Heisman Trophy, which would obviously do wonders for his draft stock. And he's going at 1-9. Who's right after him at 1-10 for you, Alex?
So we're going running back again. Ollie Gordon, Oklahoma State. He's one of these people where we haven't really seen what he can do this season. He's been very quiet. Oklahoma State has been a bit of a muffed year. But last season, 21 touchdowns, 1,700 rushing yards. So, and that's essentially where Ashton Jeanty is now. So a few more games to go, but that's a good enough season in itself. Like if Jeanty didn't play another game of college football, I think everyone would be like, he's had the best season. So, by that standard, Ollie Gordon had a very good season last year, and I think he may be holding himself back so he doesn't get injured. There's a bit of that. He's young still. He hasn't. I think he's in his junior year, so he has that. Whereas some of the players that I've mentioned already, Dylan Gabriel, they're in their 4th, 5th year. Ewers, 4th, 5th year. Yes, they're quarterbacks, but it does pay to have kind of as many years as you can out of a running back, right? So I think that'll favor him quite well.
He's quite tall, right? Every time I look at him, I'm like, you're quite big for a running back. He's not your squatty kind of power back. He's he must be 6'2", 6'3", and he's the solid unit as well. Great athlete. I've seen this year a couple of games where he's just been hurdling over players. He'll be someone that can come in, and it might be he'll come into a room where you're like, what's going to happen here? A bit kind of like with your Seahawks, only it didn't obviously pan out. But if you remember, Zach Charbonnet went to the Seahawks and everyone was like, what's going to happen with Kenneth Walker? I wonder if that might happen with Ollie Gordon, where he comes into a room, you're like, what's going to happen? Now, ultimately, obviously, Kenneth Walker has proven he's an absolute beast and won that job. But Ollie Gordon maybe could come in and do that. It's so hard to judge. What do you think's happened this year? Do you think it is he's holding himself back? Do you think he's got an injury? You're like, it is hard to tell, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think he has been battling an injury the whole season and the off season, and it does help that we have Charbonnet there as well to kind of fill in. But I was actually quite critical of Charbonnet when he was at UCLA. Maybe it was my imagination, but he always seemed to go right. He always seemed to run right and never to the left. Yeah. So it's not the same now, but it was a big what if? But he's a good compliment for Walker. But I think Walker is definitely the running back one in Seattle.
Yeah. And I think hopefully Ollie Gordon could come in and be a good compliment, or even better, be a running back one. A lot of running back needy rooms out there in the NFL. Ollie Gordon certainly got the talent, and he makes it into your first round. And now we're on to the penultimate pick of round number 1. Alex, who are you going at 111?
111. This is where I come up with Trey Harris.
Nice. So we got the same wide receiver 1, 2, 3.
Yep, we have, Steve.
Nice. Yeah, Trey Harris is having a great year. I think he's still injured at the minute. I don't really know what the status is on his injury, but he's having a great year, right?
But 900 or so receiving yards. I think it helps having a good quarterback, but he's allowed to basically showcase his ability, which is fantastic for NFL scouts, right? Because that's how can this guy work for us? So the more plays he's got on tape, the better. So I think Trey Harris is definitely is there for me inside the end of the first round.
Yeah, he seems like a kind of guy I think should be a first round NFL draft receiver as well. All things being well for Trey Harris. Again, I'm not really sure what the injury status is on him, but he's like a proper home run threat. And we've sometimes seen them be a bit funny, like translating to fantasy success, but he also runs a nice intermediate routes as well as that. He kind of, I mean, I don't love like comparing the players. You mentioned at the top of the show Brian Thomas Jr. Do you see a bit of Brian Thomas Jr. in him?
I was just about to say it. So yeah, I do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do. So I think that's a good kind of a good benchmark, shall we say?
Yeah, absolutely agree. Trey Harris, my wide receiver 3 as well. And we got one pick left of the first round, Alex. Where are you going?
So I'm going to do what I did last year, and I'm going to throw in someone I don't particularly like, but I think will go around this point.
Okay.
And this is the highest scoring college fantasy football player at the moment, Cam Ward, quarterback for Miami.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would have been screaming, "Where's Cam Ward? Where's Cam Ward?" Why has he slipped all the way down to the back end of the first round for you then?
Because if I were to compare him with any quarterback in the NFL, it would be Will Levis.
Which is not good.
Yeah, it's not good. From one side, I see that I think he's very slow in the pocket, and he will struggle with that kind of speed change. He's only really played. Well, his best kind of games have come against Florida A&M, Ball State. It's like, okay, great. But like these games don't really match up in the same way that if you're playing against Ohio State, Oklahoma every week, and you know you're going up against the best cornerbacks in the league in college football, then you know that they're going to kind of equate well when they're playing against them 2 years later in the NFL, and not someone who's not going to have an NFL career. With all due respect to the cornerbacks of Florida A&M.
Yeah.
So I think Cam Ward's a bit of a ruse for me, and I would kind of avoid going for him.
Yeah. So you see a lot of people, and I've maybe fallen into this trap as well, and Alex, where I'm sort of saying, "Oh, he's so calm in the pocket, so composed in the pocket," but you're thinking, no, he's just slow. He's not quick enough in the pocket.
He's not been pressured enough to. He has not been under pressure enough to display any kind of quality evidence as say for NFL scouts. Like, I'm trying to think if there's any games this season where he was really put under pressure and how he fared. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I remember watching him a couple of times and being like, "This is too easy." And it's not because he's good; it's because the opposition's bad.
Yeah, I am looking at their schedule, and it is. Yeah, they had a great game against Louisville. Louisville are a decent team, but they're still ranked 22nd. So yeah, you're right. There's no real like huge like competition up there. And Louisville more known for their attacking prowess anyway than on the other side of the ball. So that's a really astute observation, not one that I've heard so far about Cam Ward. We need to sort of be a little bit careful about the standard of opposition he's playing. They did just lose to Georgia Tech, I believe, which kind of shows you maybe there is a bit of fool's gold in there, right? The good old, was it Yellow Jackets, Gold Jacket? I don't know, something like that, right? Yeah, Gold Jackets, Yellow Jackets. Yeah. So
in the word, can we swear?
Yeah.
I was going to do a Happy Gilmore quote. Blue jacket, green jacket, who gives a shit?
Yeah, exactly. They still beat them. So
exactly.
That is interesting about Ward. I like some of the throws that he makes. He is putting up huge numbers, but I'm definitely going to keep that in mind going forward. I'm going to look at who is it they are playing, because I think who is the highest ranked team that Miami have played this year. I think it might be. It might have been those Louisville team, or maybe the Pittsburgh. I don't know. They've not played anyone of huge standing at the minute from what I can see. Alex, you're right. Ball State, they beat 62-0. Like, yeah, you're right. They're just really beating up on the lower end opposition. So who knows what's going to happen with Cam Ward? We'll have to wait and see. And that brings us to the end of the first round. Alex, we're going to swoop into round number 2, and then of course we'll chat about some sleepers as well. Alex, for your second round, let's go. Do you want to give me 3 names? So you want to go 201, 202, 203, and then we'll maybe zone in on one player to chat about.
Sounds good. for the first three, I have Travis Hunter, Ty Felton, and Mario Anderson.
Okay, let's go. We've chatted about Travis Hunter a few times, so let's not chat about him. I'll let you choose between the other two. Who do you want to chat about between those two?
Oh, I really like Ty Felton, and he's shown that basically playing with Tagovailoa last season, and now this season with a changing QB, he's also shown that he can produce. He's very shifty. I think he's pretty good, but I think Mario Anderson is probably the one who we could speak a little bit more about. He is a big physical player. And I mean, there's a whole line of Memphis QBs back to back to back where you're just like, it's a scheme that's fit for hybrid running back wide receivers. Antonio Gibson, Kenneth Gainwell, Blake Watson, and now Mario Anderson. They're just like big units. So it's kind of a bit like, does this tally up to NFL standard? And with him, I think it does. Like, he's very physical. And I think a lot of teams would want to maybe not have him as a starting running back next season, but would like to kind of ease him in. So I think he's a kind of a big thing. He has 15 rushing touchdowns this season. So he's no scrub, shall we say.
He's one of those guys where you're looking at him and you're like, is that like, are his legs like extra? Are those pads that he's wearing? Or is like there's no way he can look like that. Like, he's kind of one of those guys, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think he's scary, like scary looker. I think I'll play in his favor, if you will.
Yeah, if put in the right place, like, that could be an absolute smash. Yeah, I kind of get the same feeling. He's not in the class this year, but you'll know him obviously as a Michigan fan. Whenever I look at Khalil Mullins, I'm like, where did you get this guy? Like, where is he? He's absurd, right?
Like in a factory or something.
Yeah, just like kind of built to play football. So I love those picks. That's 2-1, 2-2, and 2-3 out the way. Where are we going with 4, 5, and 6?
Running back, quarterback, running back. Taj Brooks, Texas Tech.
Nice.
Running back.
Yep.
We mentioned his receiver earlier, Jackson Dart, Mississippi. And then Trevion Henderson, Ohio State.
Let's go. We've chatted about Henderson a few times.
Yeah, skip him.
Shall we chat about Jackson Dart? Because he's a guy that's really impressed me over the last couple of weeks. I cannot unsee it, but he's got a bit of the Jalen Hurts about him, right? Yeah.
And he's really good in the pocket as well.
Yeah.
I think he might be one of the most underrated in this kind of top class most people are talking about. I think he's very underrated. He just definitely has about the Jalen Hurts about him as well. But he's 3,500 ish passing yards this season.
Yep.
I think he's got a couple, maybe 3 rushing touchdowns. So can't really complain with that production. And he looks the part. He looks
super confident, super calm out there. Like, seems like a leader in that Ole Miss team. He's been there a few years now as well, I think. So
we spoke about the Raiders earlier, and it could be like they don't take a quarterback first round, and then they try and go in the second or the third or something. He's one of those where he's better than Minshew and O'Connell.
Yeah, definitely.
And he won't be going in the first round of the draft.
I was about to say.
I don't know.
Kind of like, Hurts never went in the first round, right?
Yeah. No, he didn't.
Yeah, so I could see a similar arc for Jackson Dart as well. Yeah, he's definitely someone I've got my eye on. All right, who's the next 3 then, Alex? Let's keep rolling through round 2.
So the next 3, check my notes. Here we go. Xavier Restrepo, receiver out of Miami. Jaquavius Marks, USC. And Desmond Reed, Pittsburgh.
Oh, those are 3 really nice. I can tell you a story about Jaquavius Marks. I had him. I've got like a spreadsheet of like prospects and what I think about them, and I had Jaquavion Marks and like a separate profile for a guy called Woody Marks. And then I was like, hold on, it's the same guy. I had to like combine all their points together. I was like, oh, this is much better reading now, because I was like, I can't believe they got two guys called Marks eating into like their own schedule.
I was about to be like, or whatever he calls himself these days, but I was like,
yeah. It's like Jaquavion, Woody, same guy as I just found out not that long ago. Let's well, we can't not talk about him now. What do you think about Woody Marks?
Yeah, I think he's shown good promise since moving to USC. He was at Mississippi State last season, so he's another one who kind of did that fourth year transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And he's looked good. I have him in a couple of my college fantasy leagues this season, and some weeks I'm like, is he starting ahead of Judkins or something? Like I've got. I think he's my running back 2 or 3 in most of my college football leagues where I have him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know if he gets the nod ahead of Judkins.
Yeah.
But then college is sometimes. I mean, I usually base that on who they're playing more than.
Yeah, definitely.
Who the player is. So yeah,
shout out to Ball State again, right?
Yeah, exactly. I always think like, do you remember Kalen Ballage?
Oh yeah, that's a throwback.
Yeah, like when he was at Arizona State, I think he one game he got 8 rushing touchdowns,
and
it's like, and then you see when he goes to the NFL, oh yeah, no offense to Kalen Ballage, but like, if he can make it look good at college, like to that kind of effect, then everyone can have a good day at college football. Like if they have the talent to get there. Yeah, and I do think it's worth mentioning Desmond Reed just a little bit. He doesn't have the best kind of stat line, but he's a tough runner. He's so physical, and that's why I really like him. My only hesitation about him is go ahead.
I was going to say he catches the ball really well too, which is always really good for fantasy football.
Yeah, exactly. I think the only other thing that I would be concerned about with him is Israel Abanikanda made it look easy a couple of years ago when he was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
He's now the running back 3-4 in New York Jets.
Yeah.
I know he was like 20 when he joined the NFL, and he still has quite a lot of years ahead of him. So I wouldn't be too worried. But they drafted Braylon Allen. They already had Breece Hall. Yeah, don't know where he's going really.
Yeah, he'll be on another roster at some stage, I'm sure, whenever his rookie deal comes up, and maybe then we'll see a bit out of Abanikanda. Hopefully Des Reed ends up in a better situation than that, though. But he's a guy I definitely really like this year too. And I think you got 3. Do we have 3 more picks in the second round then?
We do. We have 3 more picks. I'm just checking my notes now. These are probably a bit more out there.
I love it.
So I have Tez Johnson, Oregon receiver. Yeah. He's worked really well with Dylan Gabriel. And the only thing is he's had a bit of injuries on and off this season. He's currently dealing with a shoulder injury at the minute. But he's another one of these guys who's been in college football. This is his last eligible year. So, and he puts up good stats. It's just depending on where he lands, he could be a nice addition. So yeah, maybe this is where the being too early mock draft.
Yeah.
I kind of want to put Brady Cook in here as well.
Yeah, based on last year more than this year, right?
Based on last year, exactly. We've seen what he can do. He has it was over 3,000 passing yards last year.
Yeah,
and very effective for the last 2 of the last 3 years, not including this year. he could be a nice late round or a late second round pick. And this is still quite a good clock. Like if he's going 210, 211, still quite a good standard. And then in my last one, it hasn't uploaded onto my thing. Klubnik. If he announces to the draft, I would have Klubnik in there as well.
I cannot believe, I've said this a few times in the show, I cannot believe that's the same guy that was playing last year. It's a different guy. Must be. Has to be, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it exactly that, but he definitely warrants a mention, I'd say. And then I think outside of those 2 rounds there's quite a few players who probably get into top 10 running backs, top 10 receiver lists. Mm-hmm. You'll see the same names leading up towards the end of the season and maybe in January, February. So there's a few more. I mean, who else do you have on the radar around here?
Let's have a look. I'll try and pick out some guys that haven't come up on the show yet, I think, just so we can maybe chat a little bit about Le'Veon Moss out of Texas A&M is someone that's not really been spoken about yet on the show. I'm just looking. He's quite high up on my list as a potential sleeper player. Just kind of a big bruising running back that always finds a spot on a team, right?
Yeah, he's very good. Very good. I do like him. And then, I've skipped over quite a couple of good running backs already in Amari and Hampton, North Carolina. They produce some good running backs.
So Javonte Williams was there, right?
Javonte Williams was there. And then prior to that, there was a really good pairing of running backs. And I'm struggling to remember who it was now. Oh, I think one of them was Michael Carter.
It was Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, wasn't it? They were the pair.
Yeah, they were the pair. Then it's kind of a bit of is it a good scheme for running backs? Which it obviously is.
Maybe.
But how does that kind of equate to NFL production? Nick Singleton, I haven't mentioned.
A couple of people mentioned Nick Singleton. And I've mentioned this before the show, I just don't like watching Penn State play. I find it quite difficult to watch.
Yeah, I can see that.
I tell you who's a guy who is flying up my radar, and I put the stamp on him as one of my guys just yesterday. I don't know how much talk he's getting. I'm not even 100% sure he can declare this year. RJ Harvey out of UCF is crushing it.
He's a senior, so I think he is eligible. Yeah, my one hesitation with him is that it's like he's a little bit older.
Is he?
As a running back? Yeah, I think he's like 24 already, which is fine.
Crushing it. Yeah.
Which is fine. But he's probably a different kind of physical level than maybe some of the other younger running backs.
That is so huge. That's maybe something that I didn't take into account as much as I should have the last couple of years. Like I made a mistake last year with a guy like Cody Schrader, who was absolutely crushing it at Mizzou, but he was a good 3-4 years older than everyone else, and at that age, it just makes a huge difference, right?
Yeah, muscle maturity is like it kind of curves up there, and I'm not a physical expert or by any stretch, but you can tell that. I mean, from training myself in those days, there was a big jump between like 20 and 23. So
huge, yeah, absolutely. Alex, any other players you want to give a shout out to or mention to before we wrap this up?
You mean, do I want to give away any of my secrets? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, if you can give out one more secret to us, how about even a prospect that can't even come out this year? One to keep an eye on. Do you want to talk about Kevin Concepcion again? Is that what you really want to do?
I don't want to speak about him. I'm glad that he's having a bad season.
He is, yeah. That's sad, right?
Yeah, it's kind of not down to him primarily. So change of 3 different quarterbacks, new system a little bit. I think people. I mean, he had passing touchdowns last season. He had rushing touchdowns and receiving touchdowns, like in abundance as a rookie in college football. So yeah, he was standout, and I think he's the kind of guy who has enough on tape that people know, okay, he's good, and as long as he keeps his head on his shoulders, and he's at NC State, so it's not like the biggest kind of program. He might end up with a move somewhere. It wouldn't surprise me if he went into the portal, if the quarterback situation doesn't resolve itself in NC State, he could be a portal candidate. Yeah. So I'd look at it.
Last thing I wanted to actually chat about, and this thought only went through my head today. I was going to send a tweet out about it, but actually I thought I'll chat to you about it instead. Have you seen as big of a downfall in a couple of weeks as Carson Beck is having right now at Georgia? Because he's playing himself from potential first round drafted quarterback to would be lucky to make it in day 3.
His name didn't even cross my mind when I was writing my list today. That's bad. Yeah, that is bad.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? He's playing terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not good for Georgia, but like he doesn't have the same kind of weapons as availability as Georgia have had in the last 2 to 3 years. I do have Lecky, the tight end, in a couple of.
Oh yeah.
So I've had a little. I thought he would take Bowers' position. You forget like for the last 3 years, the quarterbacks have had Bowers to throw to, so there's a big drop off.
Huge. I do quite like Dylan Bell over there. I think he's got something about him.
He's good.
He's not. Is he eligible this year? I'm not sure.
I think he's a junior, so might be okay. Yeah. Another player I think to look for next season is Anderson out of LSU receiver. He was exactly.
I'm racking my brain. Let me check my list.
That's why. He's not eligible to go. He's only a sophomore.
Aaron Anderson,
yeah. That's right. And he's had some injuries this season, but he's put up some good numbers. And I think he didn't really play too much last season. So as a true freshman, if you will. But yeah, I think 641 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. I think as the board clears a little bit and the kind of Odegaard leave this year, he will probably be the wide receiver 1 for LSU next year. So he's another person to look out for. I would avoid JJ Jones, North Carolina. Avoid JJ Jones.
Okay.
He's just not as good as Josh Downs was at North Carolina, and I think he's just. I've had him in college fantasy football leagues this season and last season.
Yeah,
last season was with a lot of hope, and it was just like, oh. And then this season was like, I don't know anyone else, so I'll just take him, and he's also not delivered like a week to week basis. So I think he's an avoid if he ends up coming your way.
Do not press select.
Yeah, do not. Yeah, skip, go, whatever. Jump in. There are a few more quarterbacks we could go on about who've had good seasons, but I think due to the profile of where they're playing, like Bachmeier, for example, there's the quarterback at San Jose State. What is his name again? But that's gone blank. But yeah, there's a few people.
I've not got him.
There's a few players who I would say, okay, if they were playing with a different jersey on, we'd be talking about them a lot more. But I think we'll see that.
Yeah, I think you're right with that for sure. Like with like a lot of time there is what's that called? Helmet scouting, right? So hopefully the NFL draft kind of puts that to bed a little bit sometimes, and you get the cream rising to the crop. And Alex, I'll not get you to give away any more of your secrets. You've been very, very generous with those and with your time. And if you've been watching, thank you for being generous with your time as well. Please consider a like and a subscribe to the channel as well. Alex, before we get out of here, can you remind everyone where can they find all your great work online?
So most of my work at the moment is on Fantasy Six Pack. I'm a regular tweeter or an, I don't know, Xer. But I'm mostly on X. Yeah, if you want to drop me a follow on there, drop me questions. I'm usually working with IDP or college, obviously, as well as normal fantasy football. So if you ever want to drop me some start sit questions, feel free to reach out. I currently run an IDP streamer every week and an IDP start sit, which you could use actually.
I'm doing so bad in IDP leagues, Alex. I'm trying. I suck real bad. It was something I took on last year. I was like, I'm going to try this, and I'm just getting crushed. So yeah, I need to read a lot more of your articles, I think.
Great.
But yeah, make sure you check everything out from Alex at DynastyGuruNFL over on Twitter or X or whatever the hell you wanna call it. And that'll do it for another episode of the Dynasty Hotseat. And just remember, for anything Dynasty you need to know, keep it locked on the Certified Inferno. I will see you next time.